It is 10 o'clock, so I mean that could be our cue to get started. And so I would just want to welcome everyone this morning. We have 44 people signed up, and as we go here, I'm sure more people will sign on. This is our 11th virtual partner event and 182nd partner event. Just next month we have 4 great programs set up for next month. We're going to have a program on the Aransas County and postcards with Pam Stranahan and Cam Wegert, and we're going to have a virtual tour of the Farley Boat Works with Cliff Strand, director of Port Aransas Museum. We're going to have a great wood carving Wesley Cove Museum. Sheila Scheidler was executive director. She'll be talking with us about that. And then finally, we'll have one with the Brownsville Historical Association talking about their Costumes of the Americas special collection. You might have remembered we went there some time back, and Barry wrote a great article about that. So look forward to those programs. So without further ado, if you could mute yourselves. It won't affect what you hear, but it will affect what we hear. And I'm going to introduce Kelly Francis Love. She's an archivist with the Museum of South Texas History in Edinburg. And she's going to talk to us about the 1910 jail with making an arresting exhibit.
Thank you. So yes, hello everybody. I am Kelly Francis Love. I am the Archivist and Collections Team Leader here at the museum. I have been with the museum since 2017, almost 4 years now. And so today we have kind of 2 things to present to you. First, Michael's going to show us a video that we did. We do a series that we call our collection series, where we take people kind of behind the scenes through archives and collections. So this is a video that we made for that. And then I'm going to do a quick little PowerPoint going into detail more about what it took to make the exhibits in the jail.
Hi, I'm Kelly Francis Love, the archivist at the Museum of South Texas History. Welcome to another video about the unique objects and stories here in our collection at the museum. One of the most well-known artifacts in the museum's collection is the 1910 jail. This building is one of the oldest buildings in the city of Edinburg and has been the home to the museum since 1970. The jail just reopened after being closed since 2012 for renovation. While researching this brand new exhibit, we came across a wealth of information in the form of a donor. George and Sylvia Wells first donated items to the museum back in 2016. They had items pertaining to the jail due to their association with the Cortina family. Nemesio Cortina was the first jailer in the 1910 jail. His wife Marcella also worked at the jail as a cook. Together they had 5 children, including son Nemesio Jr., also known as Mencho, and daughter Tomasita. Mencho served in the U.S. Army Air Force during World War II, acting as a war photographer. He also owned his own commercial photography studio in Edinburg, Cortina Studios. Tomasita Cortina was the godmother of donor Sylvia Wells. She never married. When her brother Mencho was dying, he asked for his friend George Wells. He asked him to look after his sister Tomasita. Mr. and Mrs. Wells continued to look after Tomasita for about 20 years until her death. Upon Tomasita's death, the Wells found out that she had willed them her house on Loeb Street and its contents. They sold the house and many of the contents, but kept some of the more personal items that had belonged to Tomasita's parents and brother. Included in the house were the original metate and mano used to grind corn to make tortillas for the prisoners in the 1910 jail. There was also a bench from the 1910 courthouse. These items were donated to the museum in 2016. In 2016, Mr. and Mrs. Wells mentioned that they had original keys to the jail, but they were planning on passing those down to their son. When planning the exhibits for the 1910 jail, museum staff knew that we wanted to use that metate and mano in a display. We also knew that those original jail keys were out there somewhere, so we decided to reach out to the Wells once again. Unfortunately, George Wells passed away in 2018, but Sylvia was more than happy to talk to us and invited us to her home for a visit. While we were there, she and her son agreed to loan the keys to the museum for the exhibit. These are a valuable addition to the jail exhibit because along with the metate, they are the only artifacts confirmed to have been used here inside the jail. Sylvia also mentioned that she still has several items that belong to Mencho. CEO Francisco Guajardo and collections assistant Luna Galvan were able to look through some of these items and made some exciting finds. First, they found additional documents and photos that told the story of the Cortina family. This included a biography of Nemesio written by Mencho. It mentions that Nemesio died after a fall sustained at the jail in October 1916, which was a month before Mencho's birth. It also states that after his death, Marcella took over his duties and served as the jailer. The second find was a collection of Mencho's photographs taken during the war. He served in the Pacific during the last year of the war and took some amazing images of what he saw there. Not only the war, but the land and the people as well. These offer a unique behind-the-scenes look at World War II. The items that Sylvia and her late husband George have donated to the museum give us a unique glimpse into World War II as well as into the 1910 jail. These items have allowed us to take this building and transform it into something more. We're now able to tell the stories of the people that were here on an everyday basis. This would not be possible without community members like George and Sylvia Wells who hold on to these stories. Thanks for watching. Join us again online or on site at the Museum of South Texas History.
So this video that we did was a little bit different than what we normally do. Normally we focus on a topic. For example, we've done one before about big cats in the valley. And we pull different artifacts from different donors that are all related to that topic. But in this case, we decided we wanted to do something a little bit different and talk about the donors themselves and how we wouldn't be able to do what we do without people donating items to us. And the Wells family has provided a lot of information about the jail, which over the 50 years that the museum's been in existence, you know, we're always looking for the stories about the jail. So it was great that they came forward with that information. Okay, so the 1910 jail, making of an arresting exhibit. The jail, as you see here, has been in existence since 1910. It has served several purposes over its lifetime. It was a jail from 1910 till about 1922 when the city of Edinburg outgrew the jail and needed to build something bigger. It also served as a city hall, as a fire station, as a community meeting place. And then in the late 60s, the museum bought the jail, renovated it, and turned it into what is now the Museum of South Texas History. So next slide, please. So the jail was closed in 2012, and this was due to the need for repairs and renovation. As you can see, this is what the jail looked like when it was closed in 2012. As you can see, it wasn't in great shape. There was structural damage from the water rising up the walls. The jail was over 100 years old at that point, and the brick that was used, which this is the original brick here, the brick that was used is very porous and just soaks up water. So over the past 100 years, it had been soaking up that water and was doing some major damage to the building. So the jail was closed to visitors to basically for their own protection, to keep people safe. And then we did a capital campaign to raise the money to be able to stabilize and renovate the jail as well as install new exhibits. So construction took place from 2018 to 2019. Here's some images you can see. On the left-hand side, you have what it looked like when they tore up the floors and took down all the plaster and drywall and everything that was on the walls. So that's all the original brick is exposed there. And then on the right, you can see what they did to prevent the moisture issues in the future. So they put some sort of, the way it was described to me is that they put basically a giant sponge in the walls to soak up all the water. And then they inserted these steel plates between the walls and the floors to prevent the water from being able to rise up the brick again in the future. So while this construction was going on, we were planning the exhibits. Like I said before, I've been at the museum since 2017. I'm pretty sure I'd been here all of a month before I sat in on my first exhibit planning meeting. And the jail obviously has been part of the museum since the very beginning. And we've told the story of the jail, the same story I just told you about the many different purposes it served. We've told the story of the first jailer. We've told the story of the hanging that occurred here. But we wanted to be able to do something a little bit new and different with this exhibit. We ended up hiring a design firm based out of Austin, Pony Allen Studios. They were wonderful. I cannot say enough good things about Pony Allen and his team. And we wanted to highlight unheard voices that are not well represented throughout the museum, but not well represented throughout history in general. So we wanted to focus more on women, Hispanics, African Americans, and make this exhibit a little bit more interactive than some of the rest of the museum. And I did want to talk about the importance of teamwork. When doing a big exhibit like this, you can't do it alone. So on the left here, you see Pony Allen is seated in the chair there. And then Beth Remsburg, who's his graphic designer, is the one standing right there. And then they actually work with another team called the Museum Fabrication Group. And they designed everything that you're going to see in the jail exhibits. So they designed all the pylons where we have the panels. They designed all the interactives. They designed all the furniture that's in the jail. And then we also worked with Vernon Wickbacher of the Mission Historical Museum. He made all the mounts for us for all the artifacts that went into the exhibit. So this was a great opportunity for us to partner with people both near and far in order to accomplish our goal. So as I said in the video, George and Sylvia Wells came forward and told us that they had items that had been used in the jail originally, including that metate a mano that Marcela Cortina used to make tortillas for the prisoners. They also gave us a biography of Nemesio Cortina, and that was great information because it told us more about the first jailer, but also that's what told us about Marcela taking over his duties as jailer when he passed away. That was a story we had never heard before, and that was another way for us to be able to pull out those stories of women in history. I mean, that was back in 1916. A lot of women weren't even working, let alone as a jailer. So that was a huge deal. And like I said before, there's always more information out there to find. Sometimes it's a matter of us going and searching for it, and sometimes you just get lucky and the right people come forward at the right time and give you what you need. So this exhibit, like I said, is more interactive. On the right side here, you see a voting activity. So it's presented from the perspective of 1910. If this man was convicted of a crime, the man at the top, the people at the bottom are your list of prospective jurors, and the visitor has to decide would those people have been able to be jurors or not. So it gives information about them, like one of them doesn't speak any English. One of them is not from Hidalgo County. I think there's 2 women. I think one of the women also happens to be African American. So it goes into a lot of information about voting and the juries and how people are selected for juries and how that has changed over time. Over on the left, you see the sheriff's desk replica. Every single drawer in that desk opens up and has various artifacts or documents inside it. the telephone there on the desk, you pick it up and it's actually a little interactive thing in and of itself. You will hear the voice of the sheriff. And he says, "Hey deputy, I'm out on a call. Did I leave my badge there on the desk?" And it's hard to tell from this image, but the badge, we do have an original sheriff's badge from that time period, is in that desk. It also say like, you know, "Can you give me the phone number for the fire station?" And we have a page from a 1910 phone book that's on the desk there. So people can look up that phone number to the fire station and stuff. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of things that can be done with that desk if people take the time to listen to that whole phone call. And the exhibit was completed. It was installed in November and December of 2020. We were hoping it would be done, I think, a little bit earlier in the year. I think we shot for September, but obviously COVID put delays in everything. We originally opened in the January of this year to friends of the museum, and then we opened to the general public in, I think it was March or April. What you see there is the temporary exhibit space. The first exhibit that we have in there is Faces de la Frontera, which shows community members from the time period that the jail served as a jail from 1910 to 1920. Again, we tried to pull out underrepresented faces. So there's Hispanics, Africans, Americans, women, children. We have 4 people that are highlighted that gives us more information about their backgrounds, but then the other ones are just mystery faces. And this exhibit space is meant for changing exhibits. So the exhibit that's in there right now will probably stay up for a year or 2. But then after that, it will give us space to to change things out. And that's very important for us. We haven't had a changing exhibit space here at the museum in a long time. And, you know, having changing exhibits always gives something new for visitors to come see, people to come back and see what else is going on here instead of just the permanent exhibits. And I think that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions for me? Comments? Anything?
Kelly, hi. I am originally from Edinburg, but live in Tennessee right now. And I was down visiting friends in May of this year and went to the museum for the first time ever. And I was so impressed with everything that was there. I mean, it's very touchable and interactive. And in the jail, I liked when you pushed the button and you heard the doors open and then the swinging of the rope. Oh my God, it sent chills up my spine.
Yes, well, thank you. Thank you for the feedback. We have gotten a lot of positive feedback from visitors about the jail exhibit since it's opened. My office is actually here in the 1910 jail, so I can hear a lot of what people are saying out there and listen to them interact with things. And that's a lot of fun for me, especially because I was so heavily involved in the design. It's nice to see people enjoying it. And as Molly mentioned, yes, it's something that we have upstairs in the hanging room. We do have a sound effect where you can hear, it's the sound of the trapdoors slamming. Well, actually the trapdoors opening, and then you hear a swinging of the rope to give some idea of what it might have been like when that room was used for its original purpose. It is very creepy. I saw Mike cringe there. You know, people don't like to hear it, so we wondered if it might be. But we have not had any negative feedback about it yet. So far, it's having the effect we wanted it to have. It really makes people stop and think. So.
Well, thank you for a great let's move on to our next presenter. Is Dr. Jackie Kyger. He's a retired U.S. Coast Guard commander, and he's going to share a book review of his book, The Coast Guard on the Texas Border. We really look forward to it.
Used to reading book reviews. I'm never used to doing a book review about my own book, so let me just start with how good it is. I'll leave that up to you. The next 9.5 minutes, you'll probably be the judge. All right, looks like we're loaded. Looks like I'm there in a suit and tie, so let's just get started. Hi, everybody. Thank you, firstly, for having me. My little book is 128 pages with approximately 84 photographs that highlight the Coast Guard units, ships, missions, and people here in South Texas along the border. I'd like to thank Valerie Bates for inspiring me to create this work based on her work in creating the book Port Isabel from the Images of America series, also from Arcadia Publishing. Next slide, please. The Coast Guard has its roots in other departments within our government's history, dating back to as early as 1790 in the U.S. Revenue Cutter Service, whose objective it was in 1790 to stop contraband and smuggling, and that mission still holds true today on our South Texas border. The Coast Guard has a great history in search and rescue and has roots in the U.S. Life-Saving Service dating back to 1878 as a result. Today, the Coast Guard in South Texas will conduct between 250 to 300 rescue cases each year along the Texas Gulf Coast. In 1915, President Woodrow Wilson signed the act to create the Coast Guard by merging the Revenue Cutter Service and the Life-Saving Service into today's U.S. Coast Guard. Then, in 1933, the Steamboat Inspection Service was absorbed by that new Coast Guard. And that 1933 law is why the Coast Guard led the maritime investigation of the Queen Isabella Causeway Bridge collapse on September the 15th, 2001, which I cover from our Coast Guard perspective in the book. And then in 1939, the lighthouses, as well as all navigational systems, fell to the responsibility of the Coast Guard, which is why we had an aids to navigation team at Port Mansfield and currently have one on South Padre Island. So all these organizations make up what we are today. And in each of them, we find history here in South Texas. Next slide, please. As an example of that history, on May the 13th, 1846, President James Polk signed a declaration of war against Mexico, and the revenue cutters were put into service in the Gulf of Mexico. This fleet was a combination of sailing and steam-powered cutters. The steamers, with considerably shallower drafts, were of particular benefit along the Texas Gulf Coast and its natural inlets, such as the Brazos-Santiago Pass. Next slide, please. While the U.S. Life-Saving Service was created in 1878, it wasn't until 1881 that South Texas benefited from its impact formally. The superintendent of the Life-Saving Service was Mr. Sumner Kimball, who later had a Coast Guard cutter named after him. He was tasked with leading the effort to establish approximately 280 life stations along the U.S. eastern and Gulf Coast shores. In Texas, 4 of those 280 were built, one at Galveston, another at Pascavallo, another on Mustang Island, and the last here at Brazos-Santiago Pass in South Texas. The station at Brazos Island was assigned as U.S. Life-Saving Station number 222. Next slide, please. You only need drive through Port Isabel to see the towering magnitude of the Point Isabel Lighthouse, and it's been standing proudly in South Texas since 1852. It is a constant reminder of our history. An aids to navigation team, South Padre Island, is responsible for all the buoys, markers, and ranges from the south end of the Brownsville Ship Channel to the northern land cut just north of Port Mansfield today. Next slide, please. In the photo on the left is very likely a couple of 27-foot branch-style pulling surf boats from the mid to late 1800s. And on the right, we have 21st century fast response and 41-foot multi-purpose Coast Guard boats, today's current inventory. As well as the boats, the book covers the cutters, the ships that have served here on the Texas border, starting with the 125-foot active class cutters that were built in response to the ever-increasing need to support prohibition in the early part of the 20th century. Congress passed the National Prohibition Act in October of 1919. The Coast Guard cutter Point Noel is featured on the book cover as well as in the book. It is an 82-foot patrol boat that has the distinction of having only one home port throughout its 30-year career, and that was here in South Texas. I mention that because that's unheard of. The largest ship was the 210-foot Coast Guard cutter Durable, a medium endurance cutter that found its home port at the old oil dock moorings in the Brownsville Ship Channel. So while I'm showing you boat pictures here, the book is chock full of both ship and cutter photos significant to South Texas. The crew, next slide, please. The crew of life-saving station Brazos Santiago received the Silver Life-Saving Medal. In the book, I detail the rescue efforts of the crew on September the 16th, 1919. The vessel, Cape Horn, had been caught in a storm that was recognized as one of the worst storms in the history of the Gulf of Mexico. It was known as the Florida Keys Hurricane of 1919. Next slide, please. I have included pages and pages of log entries from the Brazos Santiago life-saving station. These are maintained by the National Archives and Records Administration, and Coast Guard Station South Padre Island gave me access to their copies. These entries by life-saving crew members give a glimpse into the day-to-day operations of being called into harm's way to assist ships and mariners along the coast of deep South Texas. They've not been edited and are presented here as they were written there. I mentioned the rescue of the Cape Horn and the resulting Silver Life-Saving Medal to the crew a bit earlier. In the log entry you see here, you see a simple and modest entry about the event. And from the book it reads, 8 miles east, vessel rendered a derelict in hurricane. Put offshore in high seas and rescued crew under circumstances of extreme hazard. Commended by headquarters. That was their only entry, a humble crew. Little did they know the history they were making. Next slide, please. I think it important to honor the people who served as much as we lift up the station's boats, ships, and missions. Chief Pablo Valent was the first Hispanic American to be in charge, to lead a rescue station, Coast Guard Station Port Isabel, in 1935. But he was no stranger to Brazos Santiago Pass, as some 15 years earlier, he was part of the boat crew that received the Silver Life-Saving Medal for the rescue of the Cape Horn. Next slide, please. If you visit the station on South Padre Island, you'll drive down Wallace Reed Road to get to the main gate. The street is named to remember the longest serving officer in charge, serving nearly 3 decades in that role. As well, he was the on-scene leader for the Cape Horn rescue of 1919. Next slide, please. I did include an interview with then 92-year-old World War II veteran and retired Coast Guard Commander Charlie Wilson of San Benito. The oral history captured here includes his story of enlisting at age 17 during World War II and his boot camp experience, and then also his memories and recollections of being stationed in South Texas in the 1940s. Next slide, please. Now, due to time, and plus I don't want to give all my stories away, I invite you to check it out and learn more about the Coast Guard Reserves, the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and the many other Coast Guard units and missions in the way of aids to navigation as a result of the jetty's construction, the creation of the 17-mile Brownsville Ship Channel, and the completion of the Intercoastal Waterway, as well as the radio beacons and Loran navigation stations here with the Coast Guard on the border. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. I believe that's my time. Here's my contact information, my email. If you'd like to purchase a signed copy, you can do that. I'll provide a link in the chat. Otherwise, it's available on Amazon or Arcadia Publishing website. But theirs will not ship until August the 2nd. So if you order from me, it ships today. Thank you, Mike.
Well, thank you. And speaking of a signed copy of the book, he has graciously donated one for our drawing. So we look forward to that. And thank you for your presentation.
Mike, let me jump in here for a second. I'm so excited for this project after almost 4 decades of poking around in Port Isabel history. And you know there's other information out there, you just haven't tapped into it to see new photos and a new angle of our South Texas history, Northern Mexico history. It's just incredible to me. Congratulations on this project. I know what it took to get through it. So happy to be able to add this book to the library of South Texas history. I think it's a really important and overlooked story. So thank you, Dr. Kyger.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Now our next presentation is going to be with Dr. Donna Shaver, the chief of the Sea Turtle Science and Recovery at Padre Island National Seashore. And she's going to talk to us about 42 years of public participation in the sea turtle nesting and stranding work on the Texas coast. She's also featured in an
Thank
article.
you. I want to thank the last speaker. That was fascinating information. And for my PhD, the dissertation work included netting green turtles at the Mansfield Channel for about 4 years. Once a month we'd go there, and there was a period of time where we stayed in the Coast Guard barracks there in the town of Fort Mansfield. So brings back fond memories of time spent there. Very fascinating. I'm going to have to get that book. Well, what I'm going to talk to you about now, though, are sea turtles in South Texas and the 42 years of work that Padre Island National Seashore has been involved in. And I started in 1980, so I've got 41 of those 42 years. And the public is aided with our nesting and stranding work on the Texas coast, and I'm very, very proud to say that. And in this presentation, I wanted to give you an intersection of how does tourism and public and volunteer participation relate to the work that we do with sea turtles. And I am the Texas coordinator of the Sea Turtle Stranding and Salvage Network. So I receive the records of the strandings and the nestings in Texas, and we enumerate those, and we do a lot of research on the turtles in Texas, as well as conservation and the public education efforts. Okay. Let's see, are you going to be, yeah, okay, thank you. So I run the Division of Sea Turtle Science and Recovery at Padre Island National Seashore. We're a unit of the National Park system, and we preserve the longest stretch of undeveloped Barrier Island beach in the United States. And we are the epicenter of sea turtle nesting and strandings in Texas. Kind of the build it and they will come, and we protected the land, and then these turtles are increasing in abundance. It may have always been the epicenter years before there was the exploitation of man, but the records are very scanty, the historic records. So, but what we can say is now it currently is the epicenter. So we work with a lot of partners to study and protect the sea turtles that occur in Texas and the Gulf of Mexico, and that has a very large public education component. It's like a three-pronged system of conservation, research, public education, because we have to share this environment, the public and the sea turtles, and we need to teach them the do's and don'ts when they are around sea turtles, because the increase in abundance of these turtles on the Texas coast is a relatively recent event. When I first started working here at Padraign National Seashore in 1980, I would go to the knick-knack shops and there'd be nothing related to sea turtles. Nobody knew about sea turtles here. It was, I even in fact went to a National Sea Turtle meeting, and the state coordinator for South Carolina said, "Oh, Donna, there's no sea turtles in Texas." Well, yes, there weren't that many, but there were some, and we know for sure now there's a lot. Okay, next. So our work at the National Seashore started in the mid-1970s by Robert Whistler. He was the chief naturalist. He lived only a few doors away from Dr. Henry Hildebrand, who found that famous film that located the nesting beach for Kemp's Ridley turtles down in Tamaulipas, Mexico. And working with Dr. Hildebrand, Mr. Whistler began the Sea Turtle Stranding and Salvage Network in Texas, and they also began the effort to form a secondary nesting colony of Kemp's Ridley turtles at Padraign National Seashore as a safeguard against extinction. And that grew into the binational recovery efforts for the species that has actually saved the species. So our work is long running, long term, started before I got here, but what I say is I got here as soon as I could. I had to graduate from Cornell and move down here. I got hooked on the sea turtles and South Texas and how friendly people are and how lovely this area is, and that I wanted to make it my home. In 1980, it was between my junior and senior years of undergraduate school. Then I decided I wanted to dedicate my career to trying to help save this species. And I've been blessed to be here ever since. And as I said, it's 5 species that we work with, and it's an integrated program of public education, research, and conservation. So what has happened over time is our numbers have increased, and the National Seashore has become an increasing source of ecotourism in the Corpus Christi area. And now turtles can be viewed while they're nesting on the beach if you're lucky enough to come on a nesting day. You can see them swimming, especially at the jetty passes, the Mansfield Channel, and also at Packard Channel. You can see the green turtles swimming around the jetty rocks. And you can see turtles crawling down the beach during public releases of either our little baby turtles during our hatchling releases, or public releases of rehabilitated turtles. And I do want to announce we just had a meeting, and it is going to be a go for our public releases for this year. So stop the presses, and this is big news for us. Indeed, July 23rd and 24th this week will be our first 2 public releases, and then our other 2 will be on August 4th and 5th. Our superintendent is doing it a little bit differently, where he pinned me into the using my crystal ball to try to predict when these turtles are going to be ready for release, which depends on a lot of variables, but I think I've got the days right. Let's hope and pray so. And plan on having the public releases then. A change is that these releases have always been open to the public free of charge, and I thought this was very important because we're in a community that is got a low income level, and these turtles are for everyone to enjoy, not just me or other officials here. And some people, $10 entrance fee is $10 too much for them, but they're going to start charging entrance fees now, and that's the way it is. And so we will have entrance fees required for 3 of those days, but actually the 4th of August is a fee-free park entrance day nationally for the Great American Outdoors Act. So we're very lucky in having one of those 4 events will be open to the public free of charge. So, okay, next one. Our conservation, we work very diligently to help find and protect our sea turtles that are nesting, protect them on the beach so that they don't get run over by nesting, run over by passing vehicles, so high tides don't wash out the eggs, predators don't eat the eggs, etc. So we protect the nesting turtles found, and the eggs are brought to protected care. Those from the northern part of the National Seashore and eggs northward on the Texas coast are brought to our incubation facility at the National Seashore for protected care. And those are the eggs that will be drawn from for these public releases. There's also a corral that is down at the southern end of the park. And then and these corrals are very large, screened off areas. There's one on South Padre Island, and South Padre Island will open a few of their releases to the public this year as well. Due to COVID, we weren't able to have public releases last year, which was very disappointing. But we did have for our social media, which was Dr. Donna Live at 6:45 on Ridley Turtle TV, bringing you the state sea turtle of Texas, Kemp's Ridley. We had nearly 1 million views of that, and we're going to have some more social media posts also to help give people the opportunity to see some of these releases, but then also have some of the public ones in addition to. In the past years, we'd have about 20 to 25 public releases that were open free of charge here, and this year, as I said, we're going to have 4 releases. Okay. In the conservation, we also protect the stranded turtles. Those are the ones that are washed ashore, either alive or dead. If they're alive, they're in a weakened condition. And we respond to reports from visitors of nesting, as well as of strandings. And this past year, you likely heard on the news, we had more than 13,000 green turtles that were found cold stunned in Texas. It was an immense undertaking to go and search for these turtles, and we had a lot of help from the public. We were so grateful for duck hunters, anglers, and many agencies that aided with that. And unfortunately, it was a perfect storm of cold stunning, and we weren't able to get to a lot of them before they passed on. Only about 30% were found alive, but nevertheless, due to that rescue effort, we released more than 3,000 turtles back into Texas waters from these recovery efforts. We also conserve the turtles at the jettied areas where there can be human interactions, people that pick up these turtles when they recruit in and sometimes aren't fearful of people. And then, as I said, is during cold stunning. Okay, and we have report cards that we pass out to the public telling them the do's and don'ts of what to do for reporting of the cold stunned turtles, as well as the turtles at these passes when they recruit into our waters. Okay. Research is a very important part of our work, and I know I've got to hustle along and time is short here, but research is a very important part of our work, and we've done satellite tracking work. Our work focuses on Kemp's Ridley, but also includes the green turtle and the other species as well. And we've had a lot of publications. Texas has been very much underfunded for sea turtle conservation and research work compared to the other US states. And so our work at the National Seashore has been critical in increasing our understanding of the species when they use this area, the trends, any sorts of illnesses, injuries that are happening in prevalence here. One thing related to the Coast Guard is those launches that come up out of Mexico, those boats that they sit the long lines and gill nets illegally and they catch turtles. And this is in a very critical migratory corridor. From my satellite tracking work, I've proven that there's this migratory corridor in our nearshore waters in this for the adult Kemp's Ridleys from their primary foraging area up the northern Gulf down to that primary nesting beach in Rancho Nuevo or to our nesting beach. So it's a big threat to green turtles, Kemp's Ridleys, and then also they catch some loggerheads every now and then too. Okay. outreach and education is critical. We are working to try to preserve and protect these turtles for future generations. I've been so busy with my turtle work, I never was able to have my own children. So I'm hoping that these turtles are going to be around for your children and your grandchildren. And when we invite the public out to see these releases, it's amazing. It's the most popular educational program we have at the National Seashore. It draws in thousands of people. When we had 20 to 25 public releases, we'd have about 15,000 people that would come in for these overall amongst those 20 to 25. This is pre-COVID, of course, no social distancing. And outreach and education also for our releases of the cold stun turtles, also very popular, and we can do these in advance and a little later in the afternoon. Our public releases and hatchings are 6:45 in the morning, and I get complaints, why so early? It's turtle time. Everything's about what's best for the turtles. At 6:45 in the morning is when those need to go. But with our rehab turtles, those can go a little bit later in the day. And again, thousands of people come out. And it's important. We want people to get to see the turtles, because when you get to see them and learn about them, then you can really care about them and help carry that torch and be our ambassadors in the community to educate others how that they can help with our efforts. Okay. And we had big celebrations at the National Seashore around the sea turtles for our celebration of the centennial for the National Park Service in 2016, and then also in 2018, the 40th anniversary of the binational Kemp's Ridley Recovery Project. And we had partner agencies that came in. We had junior rangers swearing in programs. Boy Scouts came out. There's our sea turtle mascot, Seashore Sandy. Very, very popular with the public. And we're so, so grateful because we're doing this together. Volunteers have been a mainstay of our work ever since the beginning. There were times when I was flat, broke, busted, no money to do the work. It was just me and volunteers, and they've always come through for us. And then they have this desire and inspiration to carry on the conservation of these animals into the community in the future, okay? And there we go, volunteer support. I can't say enough about it. We're so grateful to our volunteers. Every year we get over 100 volunteers that participate with our work. And I tell my staff there's a place for everyone in our volunteer program, all the way from the people who will help us with radio dispatch, those that will drive down the beach and aid with collection of eggs, collection of stranded turtles, passing out information to the public, interacting with the public, answering questions for them at the hatchling releases, helping other ways in the turtle lab, even if you get your PIV card, even and do the background check, helping with computer work. Okay. And more here, just showing the variety of activities. We train, we require training, we put people on our permits, and they learn to do virtually all the same work that the biologists do, with advancing the level of responsibility and that we give to them, and how much that they can do on their own based on how long they've been with us and their capabilities. And we require driver's license. We're not babysitters. Community support. This really warms my heart because this is where the community has taken on the sea turtles. And we had the Corpus Christi Visitor Convention Bureau. Look, they wrapped their vehicle. There's the Kemp's Ridley hatchling, big mural of a sea turtle hatchling in a building downtown Corpus Christi. The sculpture at Edinburg Park of Kemp's Ridley's, the water tower on North Padre Island with the Kemp's Ridley, and at the White House during the Bush administration, Kay Barnaby decorated the ornament representing Padre Island National Seashore as a sea turtle, and that was placed on the Christmas tree in the White House. How exciting. And she got invited to an event up there. Very, very exciting. And North Padre Island, named as the sea turtle capital of Texas. So I want to say that thank you to the widespread community support, hundreds of volunteers each year, and drawing from more than 40 years of experience, we're going to continue to conserve and protect these sea turtle species in the Gulf of Mexico, and try to continue to make Corpus Christi and Padre Island National Seashore an increasing source of ecotourism in South Texas. It's very important.
Thank you, Donna. That was great. We enjoyed that. I will say that Mr. Whistler was a great archivist at the Nueces County Historical Commission for a while, so I'm familiar with Mr. Whistler. He was a great fellow too.
Sure was.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a quick question. What's the relationship, because you're up near Corpus, right? What's the relationship with the nonprofit that's on South Padre Island?
Oh, Sea Turtle Inc., very close. There's 5 nesting, stranding projects on the Texas coast. I run the one on North Padre. Sea Turtle Inc. runs the one on South Padre and Boca Chica Beach. So we cooperate very closely together. I provide training to their staff, and I just kudos to them for the great work that they've done. And they've got a beautiful new facility. I haven't seen it yet, but I want to go see it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, thank you, everyone. It's good to see you again. I spoke with your group, probably, 5-10 years ago.
Yes, it's been quite a while. When we really enjoyed our visit there, and hopefully we'll get another chance to come out there again.
I hope so. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to our final program. Pam Stranahan is going to step in to share a brief background about the music video covering the history of Aransas County and music and song provided by Kai Husite, called By the Beautiful Sea. She's stepping in because the director couldn't be here today. So thank you, Pam.
You bet. Thank you, Mike. Yes, we had our sesquicentennial, you all probably remember, in June, and we had many events to highlight our history here. We still have some continuing exhibits at the Fulton Mansion, the Center for the Arts, and the History Center. So anybody who comes to town can still learn a lot more about our sesquicentennial. But one of the highlights was done by the Rockport Little Theater, and their director, Laura Lee List, took the script from our History Center exhibit called Voices from the Past and turned that into a musical. This was performed at our Founders Day breakfast, and I think you'll enjoy it.
By the sea, by the sea, by the beautiful.
What you doing?
Katie, you are the worst sister ever.
No, I'm not. You love me. I'm the best sister ever.
I was practicing my song for the barbershop quartet performance for the 45th anniversary of Aransas County.
Fine. Carry on.
Was baseball mad, had the fever and had it bad. Just to root for the hometown grew every sou. Katie knew. On a Saturday, her young beau called to see if she'd like to go to see a show, but Miss Kate said no.
I'll tell you what you can do.
Take me out to the ball game, take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back, let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Katie Casey saw all the games, knew the players by their first names, told the umpire he was wrong all along, good and strong. When the score was just 2-2-2, Katie Casey knew what to do. Just to cheer up the boys she knew, she made the gang sing this song. Take me out to the ball game, take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back, let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Our part of the Aransas County history.
Okay, you start.
Did you know that Aransas County has always been a rich oasis full of farmland, fish, and wildlife? Since prehistoric times, our county has been inhabited by those who enjoy our mostly tranquil weather.
Ancient people have lived off the land on our shores and fished our waters since the beginning of time. Think about that. We're walking on the same sand as people throughout time.
Oh, it's like we're time travelers and H.G. Wells is the time machine. Oh, imagine huge sailing ships, French and Spanish, right off our coast. Oh, that must have been a sight to see.
Yes, but the Spanish and French weren't interested in the beauty of our shores. They were hunting for gold.
We don't have any of that.
Nope.
But it is possible that Cabeza de Vaca himself may have shipwrecked off our coast. No one knows for sure.
We do know for sure that the first Spanish fort was built in the 1700s at Live Oak Peninsula.
Oh, that's just at the very north edge of Fulton, right where you have to cross the bay to get to Lamar.
It sure is. That port's and mission was named Aransas, after a beautiful palace in Spain and Our Lady of Aransas.
Aransas was later derived to be Aransas, and that's how we became Aransas County.
Aransas became Aransas City with the post office and customs office.
Oh, wait a minute, you're skipping ahead. Okay, so first, the Mexican government didn't want any more settlers along the Texas coastline. But then, in 1828, an Irishman by the name of James Power, he negotiated a contract with the Mexican government to allow more settlers to move to Aransas. The Mexican government agreed, and, well, they felt that they would be a good influence in the area because they were Catholic.
Right. That's when James Power renamed the settlement Aransas City. Although eventually, after so many attacks from Mexico, Native Americans, and the battles throughout the Texas Revolution, Mayor Bill Lamar put the post office and customs across the bay to Lamar.
Aransas City became a ghost town.
Then, in 1845, Texas became the 28th state to join the United States of America.
That's a fact. In 1845, Zachary Taylor, a general in the United States Army, sailed from New Orleans with his troops, readying for the Mexican-American War. The first land he saw in Texas was San Jose Island.
And he chose that very spot to erect the very first United States flag in its newest state. The first American flag flown ever in the state of Texas was right here, at San Jose Island.
In the summertime of 1845.
In the good old summertime.
In the good old summertime, in the good old summertime, strolling through the shady lanes with your baby mine.
You hold her hand and she holds yours, and that's a very good sign that she's your Tootsie Wootsie in the good old summertime.
I really do. You know, it's hard to believe that about a few years back in the past, that bay out there was filled with cattle carcasses.
What?
It's true. Right after the War of the States, the cattle industry grew up here real fierce, and there were cattle coming through by the thousands through Aransas County.
But I know that. But why were there carcasses in the bay?
Well, you know, those cattle barons like the Coleman, Mathis, and Fulton Cattle Pasture Company, they helped build Aransas County from a small fishing village all the way up into a busy marketplace.
But why did they throw the carcasses in the bay?
Well, I think it's supply and demand. You know, the slaughterhouses, they had more demand for the tallow and the hides than they did for the meat. Originally, they'd send out those cattle on the hoof, you know, send them down to the port, put them on a ship, and send them everywhere. Then they realized that basically it was more cost-effective to just ship the tallow and the hides.
I'm so glad that practice has ended. Imagine how horrible it is to have all those carcasses in the bay.
Well, the turtles liked it. Well, honey, don't forget that those cattle are the reason why Aransas County has its depot and its pavilion and just about everything else.
I realize it is the very foundation of Aransas County. Why, Mrs. Mathis, who attends the weekly women's club, she's very involved in the community.
Well, isn't her, that's her walking down the pier right now toward the pavilion. Is that her in the big blue hat?
Why, yes it is. She's so fancy.
Yeah.
Look at all the beautiful people. We really do live in an extraordinary town.
You know, with all the modern conveniences of 1916.
And that promenade on the pavilion is a brilliant piece of work. And all the people that come into the resorts from everywhere in Texas.
Yeah, let's not forget those cattle and oil barons. They need to be accommodated too.
We are so popular. Oh, look, I think I see Geneva and Lane on the pier.
Where?
Right down there, midway down the pier on the way to the pavilion. Oh, look at the couples arm in arm. They're so romantic.
Honey, don't you worry. You know, we still have a Spock and Aha.
Oh, my.
Let me call you sweetheart, I'm in love with you. Let me hear you whisper that you love me true. Keep the love light glowing in your eyes so true. Let me call you sweetheart, I'm in love with you. We still got it. All right.
We're here, finally at the beach.
After a crowded train ride from San Antonio.
Look at the water. Oh, look at the seagulls. Golly, look at the sand.
Look at the suffragettes with signs. They mean business.
I heard several of them chatting. They came over here all the way from a convention in Corpus to have lunch.
Oh, well, good for them. I hope they get to vote.
Listen to you, modern man of 1916. Oh, look at the pavilion.
It says they have shows, symphonies, and other performances in the pavilion.
Oh, probably not today, though. Look at all the banners. They're celebrating their county's 45th year anniversary.
So Aransas County was founded in 1871.
Wow, that was some quick arithmetic.
Thank you, but it says so right here in the brochure.
Cheeky. I want to see everything. The pavilion, the parade, the fair. And there's a soda fountain downtown. We need to go there for lunch.
Slow down there, Snickerdoodle. We only have 10 hours before the last train ride to San Antonio.
Well, that's plenty of time. I want to see all of it. This hotel, the La Playa, looks so dreamy. And it was just built 4 years ago. Let's have dinner here.
They have a bathing house pavilion too? I brought my swimming suit.
Me too. I checked it with the fellow at the train station. We can go pick it up after lunch.
Look, they're celebrating and honoring all the people at the Founders Day celebration. Most of them have cows. Mr. and Mrs. Mathis, but he passed away. Mr. Richard Wood, he has cows too. And he's the mayor.
And there's Mr. Simon B. Sorensen. It says he owns the Sorensen Mercantile and Chandlery. He puts out the weather flags.
And this gentleman, Victor Frederick Brach, he's from Germany.
You think?
Postmaster and customs inspector. His children have several stores in town. Come on, let's go do everything by the sea.
No, I do like to be beside the seaside.
I do like to be beside the sea. I do like to stroll upon the prom, where the brass bands play till the bum. So just let me be beside the seaside. I'll be beside myself with glee, and lots of girls beside. I should like to be beside the seaside, beside the sea.
By the sea,
By the sea,
by the beautiful sea,
you and me,
you and me.
oh how happy we'll be.
When each wave comes a-rolling in,
We will duck or swim,
and we'll float and fool around the water,
over and under.
and then up for it.
Ma is rich,
Ma's rich,
so now what do we care?
I like to be beside your side,
Beside the sea,
beside the seaside,
by the beautiful sea.
Thank you, Pam, and extend our thanks to Laura Lee. I'm sorry she couldn't be here, but that was a great little presentation.
She's conducting the little theater camp today, so she couldn't come in this morning.
Okay, well, we'll have this all recorded so she can see it later. And with that, that wraps up all our programs, and I'm going to turn it over to Valerie.
Unmuting. Well, we thank everybody for joining us for our 11th virtual partner event. Can you believe we've been doing this for almost a year? August will be the last of our virtual tours. September we'll meet in person. So we're all looking forward to that. But we've learned so much over the last year with these virtual events that we are working towards a way to go hybrid. Nobody will ever be the same. We've been really spoiled by this ability to reach people who are unable to travel, their schedules, or for whatever reason. We still want to be engaged with those folks that have been so faithful to us over the past year. So we're working towards a way to make these in-person events virtual. So if you can't show up, we can still be in your living rooms or your home office or wherever. And I want to thank Dr. Kyger again for donating this month's prize. And to qualify for that, you need to fill out the survey, which Mike will send out, because we are interested in your viewpoints on our programming. I appreciate everybody for showing up to view this programming this month. Once again, it's such a variety of, from turtles to Coast Guard, to jails, to a sing-along here. We've had it all. And that's one of the things too we're going to kind of miss about these virtual events, because we have been able to be all over the region. And so that's been a real treat. And so I want to say, thanks, and see you next month, and really see you in September. And also, before we sign off here, Nancy and Mike have been working together as Mike has taken over the reins, and Nancy is retiring from her position as executive director. And so, Nancy, do you have any last words to say as co-executive director of the Texas Tropical Trail region?
Yes, I do, but this is not my last rodeo, because I'm going to be here next month too. But I wanted to say that I believe when you're talking about all the opportunities these virtual events have afforded us, I believe we have somebody with us from Canada today. Is that correct?
Yes.
Susan? Yes, from Thunder Bay, Ontario, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, great. I just want to let people know.
We're still international.
Glad to know that. Mike's done a great job, and he's going to continue to do a great job, but I'll be here next month as well. And I look forward to seeing everybody again, hopefully actually seeing you in person at the September event in Corpus Christi. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Mike, we look forward to when you throw the recording up on the World Wide Web and make us even more famous. Thanks everybody, and thank you, Mike, for being the Zoom master.